breaking news coming in, viewers, at this point. The Delhi police has finally initiated a crackdown. The station house officer booked for allegedly misbehaving with a female journalist during the protests. If you remember, this is a story we've been tracking very closely for the last couple of days. There were two female journalists who accused the police in Delhi of snatching their cameras, of assaulting them, and there was one very serious case of molestation. You'll see that visual on your screen where the journalist is being manhandled. Her camera was taken away from her, her photographs were deleted, and she also alleged that she was molested. An FIR has been lodged under sections for molestation. The female journalist accused the SHO of molestation and filed a complaint. Priyank is on the phone line right now, our reporter. Priyank, can you give us an update on this particular story, and why did it take so long? Why did it take the stepping in of the Home Minister of the country before some action was taken against this particular police officer?
See, we were witness to this incident when this incident happened, and in front of us only the female journalist complained into additional CP rank officer, and that was certainly taken into taken lightly. But during the coverage which we have shown, finally the Delhi police acted, and there were many female journalists who also protested. Delhi police was bound to do a vigilance inquiry in this particular matter, because the station house officer of Delhi Can, who was at that particular time present in the South District area, because the protest point was South Delhi. Since he was on duty, there was a need for vigilance inquiry, and that's what was done by the Delhi police officials. Yesterday, the female journalist was called, and today her statement was recorded before the vigilance inquiry committee, which was formed by the Delhi police officials. And during the vigilance inquiry probe, which is a departmental inquiry by the Delhi police officials, this has been found that the SHO, the station house officer, was guilty of molesting the female reporter who was doing her duty, who was present on the spot. And on the basis of that, the Delhi police officials have filed an FIR at the police station, which is of Sarojini Nagar, and they have filed an FIR under sections of molestation against the station house officer, who has been sent to police crime, and now he has been suspended. Back to you.
Priyank, I want to ask you this. You said you were present at the time when these incidents took place, when both of these journalists were manhandled, one molested, and their cameras were snatched away from them. Now, we have statements from the PR department of the Delhi police saying that we apologize, but our intention was not to obstruct the media from doing the job. The female police just mistook the photojournalist as a protester, that we didn't even know this was a journalist. Is that possible? Because normally in these events, journalists tend to stand together. Do you think that the journalist would not have called out at that point that she was in fact a journalist and she was not a protester? And is it okay to even treat a protester like this?
See, Anushri, who was the photographer of a prominent news paper, was in fact screaming that she is a photojournalist from a news organization. Still, there were 5 female police personnel who were dragging her, and they took her camera. But on the other side, the female journalist who has now filed the complaint, and on whose complaint this FIR has been filed, was on the service lane of this particular stretch, which is connecting the Lakshmi Bai Nagar to Sarojini Nagar area, and she was standing on the left-hand side. The protesters were pushed back by the Delhi police officers after the water cannon was used, but instead of using the water cannon, the Delhi police preferred to use bait and charge. They did lathi charge on the protesters, and this female journalist went to the left-hand side of the barricade where she was standing, and she was writing about whatever was happening on the ground. But the station house officer, instead of her telling it to him that she is a journalist, pushed her, and in her complaint she has also written that the station house officer was inappropriately looking at her, and that was the cause of molestation, and she was pushed by the station house officer. There were many female police persons also who could have been brought into this particular work, but instead of doing that, the station house officer of Delhi Cant, who was also on duty, pushed the female journalist. This has been found in the vigilance inquiry, and the Delhi Police Vigilance Inquiry clearly suggests that the SHO was the guilty person for molestation case. That's why this FIR has been filed in the sections of molestation and several other sections of
Priyank, have any arrests been made?
No, he has been sent to district line, which is a police line, and he will be placed under suspension till the time this inquiry will be completed.
All right. Priyank, many thanks for joining us on the show. Priyank there, our reporter who was on the ground when this happened, giving us a very clear picture of what happened. Priyank telling us very clearly that these journalists were screaming loud and clear that they were journalists. They obviously looked like journalists. They were behaving like journalists. One of them was taking notes. The other one was taking photographs. The police in this case snatching the camera, manhandling the journalists. And as the senior journalist has now claimed that while there were enough female constables around, there was this one SHO who looked at her inappropriately and then grabbed her breast while he tried to push her out of the way. There was no need for him to lay a hand on her. And I want to make this very clear to all of our viewers who are watching. There is never, ever, ever a need for a male policeman to touch you, irrespective of the case. Ever. There should always be a female constable present. When they're pulling you over to do a breathalyzer test, if they're pulling you over for questioning, if they're calling you to the police station for questioning, whatever the case, there is never a justification for a male police officer to touch a woman, because that's what the female constables are there for. So if there was an SHO here in this case who touched this journalist, whether she was a journalist or a protester makes absolutely no difference. He should have been arrested. Sending him to police lines makes no justification. Joining me on the show, and the bigger question that we have to ask tonight, was this a method to silence the press? Remember, they attacked somebody who had a notebook and attacked someone who had a camera. Afraid, of course, of the two things that governments have always been afraid of: the pen and the camera. Let me bring in my guest, Vikram Singh, former DGP, Uttar Pradesh, Neerja Chaudhary, senior journalist, Vinod Sharma, political editor of the Hindustan Times, Amit Khemka, senior lawyer with the Delhi High Court, Deepika Sharma, spokesperson of the BJP in Delhi, Atishi, leader of the Aam Aadmi Party, and of course Mr. Shailesh Gandhi, who's very kindly decided to stay with us, former Information Commissioner. I thank all of you for being part of this conversation. I'm going to start with Neerja Chaudhary. Ms. Chaudhary, was this the Delhi police business as usual, or do you see this as an attack on the press?
Look, I would first like to welcome the action that they've taken, lodging an FIR. Finally, after 3-4 days, and it's a long time coming, considering the kind of protests we've had, considering the fact that the delegation met the Home Minister of India, considering the fact that journalists went outside the Commissioner of Police's office and demanded action, and this in the capital of India, not in some far remote corner that this is happening, and against journalists who were doing their due legitimate duty. So, but having said that, now that they have taken action, as you said, it would have been good if they had arrested the person, but they have taken some action today. Now, the more important question that you raise is, was this to silence the press? Now, what is very curious here is the journalists or the photojournalists were not indulging in marpeet. They were not doing something that was criminal, that was, where you book them under the law. They were doing their due duty as journalists. And why should they be taken, like the protesters, why should their equipment be seized? Why should they, even if you talk about the mistaken identity, that's a plea the police had taken, do you behave like that with citizens of India, women citizens of India? And I particularly feel very strongly about photographers. Women photographers are really in many ways iconic figures. You know, if you, there's a recently the book has come out on called Perfect Frames about women photographers. You know, that struggle that they put up, carrying the cameras, huge, heavy, the emotional, physical stress. I mean, they've broken new ceilings. They are figures who should be treated with great respect. And instead, they were subjected to the kind of treatment that they were. So, I find this very, very painful, what we have seen in the last 3-4 days. And yes, the questions do come, could this have happened unless instructions were there from the top, put them in their place? Yes, these questions come to your mind today.
You know, I'm going to ask Vikram Singh this question, and I know that Neerja Chaudhary will agree with me. For those of us who worked as journalists on the ground, this sort of thing, pinching, groping, pushing, shoving a female journalist, it almost becomes part of the job. I don't understand why it needs to be part of the job anymore, because we're not going to be quiet about this anymore. And I'm so proud of the fraternity for coming together and actually going on that. Now, but Vikram Singh, tell me this, is this what it takes? The Home Minister, all of the journalists out on the street, putting their cameras on the road, causing a traffic jam in order to get justice over a molestation, accusation. This is embarrassing. And under what circumstances, Vikram Singh, is any police officer allowed
Faye, this is extremely...
to touch a woman, any woman, whether or not she's doing her job?
Faye, it is extremely disappointing as far as this conduct of the Delhi police is concerned. They have been caught on the wrong foot yet once again, and I hope this is the last time. There is an unwritten code that no male police officer shall touch a woman ever. Shall never touch a woman ever. It is just not acceptable, and he should be taken to task. And to add to that horrible dimension is the fact that he probably thought that the person was a protester. What kind of logic are you giving? Can you take liberties with a protester? I dare say that 20 years ago, some inspector gave this argument that this woman was a professional lady, and he was suspended and dismissed from service merely because of the fact that he said that she was a lady and a professional lady. I hope you understand what I'm hinting at.
Yes.
But that inspector was discharged from service immediately for raising a finger at the character of a lady. One, the police was expected to be more professional. They should have registered a case on day one itself rather than entrust the inquiry to the vigilance department. Under what rules did they entrust the inquiry? You're supposed to first register a case, then investigate it promptly, and you should come out with the facts in 48 hours, if not in 24 hours. You failed that. Now you come out with the excuse that you have registered a case, you have sent him to the lines. I don't know whether you have placed him under suspension or not. If you have placed under suspension, I would rather that there should be a timeline of 72 hours under which you should spell out that you would be telling us whether the allegations are true or false. In the face of the fact that you, under what rules did you order an inquiry? There is Supreme Court ruling, there are so many cases, the case law and the CRPC. First register a case, investigate the case, and then if you want, you can have a
Let me bring in Shailesh Gandhi. Mr. Gandhi, you heard what my...
Something horribly...
Yes, you heard what my colleague Priyank said on the phone. He said this was a journalist who had a camera, the other journalist had a notebook. They were not part of the crowd. There was no way to mistake them in any way as protesters, and they kept screaming out that we're journalists, let us go. Do you believe that even this action that Neerja Chaudhary says that she's happy about, is it too little too late?
It is too little and too late. There is no reason why the policeman could not be arrested. I fail to see this. Anyone else would have been arrested. If an average person were to misappropriately touch a lady, he would get arrested immediately. Why is the policeman not getting arrested? I think we are satisfied with too little. And of course, as you mentioned, it is too late. This required an agitation by journalists.
Yes.
What happens to the common person? If it was a common protester, nobody would have bothered. Let's face it. This is showing a definite tendency to reduce and to restrict the freedom of expression of people.
Yes, let me bring in Vinod Sharma on that same point. Mr. Vinod Sharma, do you see this as an attack on the freedom of press?
Well, first of all, I think that, of course, we have to underscore the fact that a woman journalist, a woman photojournalist was roughed up, and, her modesty was outraged by a man in uniform. It is the most, unsettling thing that one can think of. But, a senior police officer is on this panel, and I'm not the least surprised when it happens in a country where fake encounters are now institutionalized. Our chief minister is celebrated in a nearby state for carrying out fake encounters, becoming the judge and the jury and the prosecutor. And in this country, the whole debate of police reforms is restricted to what tenure, fixed tenures for police officers, and no political interference in their work. The irony of the situation, Faye, is that this has happened in the city of Delhi, which is just about which was pretty close to the center of power, which is the parliament or the North Block or the South Block, and even the presidential lounge, So this happening in Delhi, and this happening to students who were protesting, and happening to journalists. Now, may I tell you that in 2016, if you remember, in the Patiala House Court, a similar incident had happened where lawyers owing allegiance to a political party had attacked journalists who were covering a case of Kumar, who too had a lot to do with JNU. You see, let us not forget that this whole thing, whenever the word JNU is mentioned, certain images get conjured up in the minds of policemen, and they've been trained perhaps to think that way, that whatever relating to JNU is happening, it must have something to do with sedition or with something which is anti-India. No, this is a discourse. This is the fallout of a discourse which has been navigated with nefarious designs. Let us not forget that. And because that discourse is at times corrected by journalists on the spot, like in 2016, the Indian Express journalist wrote a first-person account of whatever happened in the court. So I think that, this is an issue which is way bigger, much larger, and requires
I understand what you're saying, and let me take this question now to Deepika Sharma of the BJP. Ms. Sharma, my question to you is very simple. Were the Delhi police given instructions to stop journalists from doing their job, to take away their notebooks, to take away their cameras and make sure nothing is reported? Yes or no?
I think it is a very sad day today, even to discuss this point that, in a democratic country where a properly democratically functioning government is there, that the question is being asked whether certain specific instructions were given to the Delhi police to silence the journalists. I would completely refute it.
I'm sure you're sad about it, but you haven't answered my question.
First of all,
my
being a lady,
were they given instructions? Yes or no? Because they were behaving like they were given instructions.
Obviously, no instructions were given. That is how I started. No, Faye, you kindly listen to me now. The thing is this, being a woman, I absolutely condemn that, the women journalists, they were assaulted, and such a thing has happened, and now today an FIR has been put up against the SHO. 2 cops have been suspended. Inquiry is on.
After all the journalists in the city came out into the street, Ms. Sharma.
And appropriate punishment is to be appropriate. Faye, please listen to me. You've given a lot of time to Faye, you have given a lot of time. You have given a lot of time to Vinod Sharma ji. I could not hear what Nirja ji said, but I heard what Vinod Sharma ji said, and
You'll have to forgive me, Ms. Sharma. This is a question of a female journalist on the field. It's personal to me. It's personal to a lot of people on this panel, but it's specifically personal to me. I want to know why the Delhi police was misbehaving with female journalists. Did they have instructions to do so?
I want to know from you, where did JNU angle come in the debate? Where did the JNU angle come in the debate?
Where did the JNU angle come? I believe that Mr. Vinod Sharma raised that question. But the question that I'm asking you is, why did the Delhi police think it was okay to molest female journalists? Second question, why did it take so many days before any action was taken? Why was it that every journalist in the city of Delhi had to lay down their cameras today before anybody took course? We waited for the Home Minister to make a statement. Obviously, something is horribly wrong in the city of Delhi.
See, it was about journalists' mistaken identity and cops, assaulting the female journalists. It was very wrong. I said it right in the beginning.
So hang on. Are you telling me then that Deepika Sharma, the cops had instructions to assault and molest the protesters?
No, please.
कि कॉलेज के बच्चे उनको क्या इंस्ट्रक्शन दिया गया कि जाके ग्रोप करो, जाके मारो?
Of the debate by saying that police under this government
mistaken
is
identity,
working
how is that a
with the
justification?
agenda.
So you are telling me
there are fake
that the students who are marching, it's okay to grab them by the breast? Deepika Sharma? Is it okay to grab their breasts? Is that what you're telling me? That's the instruction. Now, since the Delhi police is doing it with impunity, let's tell it like it is. Let's talk about it. Well, let's talk about what's happening. The Delhi police went out, looked at women and grabbed them by the breast. Isn't that what happened? Unfortunately, one of those turned out to be a journalist, so now we're all sorry. But otherwise, theek hai na? JNU ke bacche to kya hua?
Being a woman, nobody can support this.
So then why are you defending it?
In sane mind can support this.
Why are you defending it
then? Those police officers need to be punished very, very
strictly. But they're not being punished.
Why not arrested within 24 hours, ma'am? Ma'am, why was the police not arrested within 24 hours? Is the question.
Two cops have been suspended.
I'm saying within 24 hours, why were they not arrested, ma'am?
So inquiry is on.
There seems to be an extreme reluctance on the part of the police leadership.
Two cops have been suspended and
it's not the same thing as an arrest, Ms. Sharma.
Nothing is going to happen to them.
Today.
They are under protection.
Inquiry is on. Inquiry is on. And inquiry is on.
Why are they not arrested, ma'am?
And inquiry is on.
Anyone, Atishi, Neerja, anyone who wants to respond to this, please come in. I don't believe an inquiry is the same thing, a suspension is the same thing as an arrest.
Who brings on to a neighboring state for fake encounters, and then who is defending JNU like that? In 2016, sir, I would say...
You know what, Deepika Sharma, unless you can prove to me that the breasts in JNU are different from the breasts everywhere else, and the ones in JNU are okay to molest and the ones everywhere else are not okay to molest, if there are different women with different kinds of breasts, then please feel free to tell us what you're talking about. But women are women and molestation is molestation, and no excuse you can give me tonight will be worth it. Atishi from Aam Aadmi Party, go ahead. What's going on in the city of Delhi? Atishi.
Kindly conduct the debate in a
I think, Faye, there's 2 or 3 things that we need to understand when we are looking at this situation. Number one, I think we must first of all explicitly state for any of your viewers who's watching that Delhi police is directly under the command of the Ministry of Home Affairs, the MHA, under the central government. So let us not, any of us, believe that the Delhi police can act like this without instructions from the central government. Number two, there are 2 issues that we must look at when we see what happened at that protest. One is the way the woman journalist was treated, molested, assaulted. But number 2, also the brutality with which both the journalists and the students were treated.
Your chief minister.
If one sees the video footage, the brutality is actually shocking. This brutality has happened earlier once. This brutality one could see at the protest on the Rohit Vemula issue. This brutality could be seen in the incident that happened at Ramjas College last year. This brutality can be seen now. So what is clear is that there is a systematic attempt by the central government to clamp down on any student protests. Treat them brutally. Don't let them raise their voices again against the repressive government. That is message number 1. Message number 2. Madhur Verma, the PRO of the Delhi police, and now the spokesperson of the BJP have both said, oh, we are sorry that we assaulted the journalist. It was a case of mistaken identity. Is it okay? What does that mean? It means that we are sorry that we assaulted and brutally beat up a journalist because we thought she was actually a student. Oh, is it okay to behave like that with a student? Is that what the police and the BJP are saying? I think not just the Delhi police, not just action on the Delhi police. I think the Minister of Home Affairs himself needs to come forward on this issue. Mr. Rajnath Singh himself needs to respond both on the brutality as well as the assault of journalists and students. Because
I want to bring Neerja Chaudhary back in here again, because when we started this conversation, Atishi,
has been directed by the central government.
I want to bring Neerja Chaudhary back in again, because when we started this conversation, Neerja said that she was happy as a journalist with the action that is taken and she believes this is a step in the right direction. She was also happy with the response that came from the Home Minister, the Union Home Minister himself. So Neerja, in response to what we're hearing right now, Mr. Shailesh Gandhi is saying that this is not enough. This man should have been arrested. Vikram Singh saying this is absolutely unacceptable. No police officer has the right to touch any woman, irrespective of what she is, who she is, what she's doing. There's absolutely no excuse under which this is okay. Are you still happy with the change, with the action that has been taken today in Asia, or do you believe that it's too little too late?
Let me just put the record straight. I did not say I'm happy. I said I welcome this step.
All right.
Finally, some action has been taken. And I also said that it would have been better had he been arrested, like anybody else would have been arrested.
Yes.
So because he is a police officer, there is a certain amount of protection that's being given to him. I would say, you know, the way the whole thing has happened, if, you know, you ask the question, are there instructions from the top? I said there is a question mark in many of our minds whether they are. Suppose there were not instructions from the top and police officials down below had behaved, and the brutality, and the police must have also seen these images, the brutality with which it had happened. If that has not been the case, should not have action come on day one.
Yes.
You've given the message by the delay that things are acceptable.
Exactly.
Had you acted on day one, the message down the line to the police would have been, this is absolutely unacceptable, this kind of behavior. So the delay shows a reluctantly acting, and that has its own message. Okay, yes. The media is very agitated.
It takes time to conduct
so we have to move. Let's see how we can protect you.
It takes time to collect the video footage.
And that kind of a message is coming.
When you say day one,
and
Madam,
you know, in the capital of India, this is happening.
No. Deepika Sharma, I will remind you that people have been arrested on the spot in this country for far less. Like making a comment or forwarding a WhatsApp joke, people have been arrested in this country. So saying that it takes time to investigate a police officer, I'm sorry, I don't buy that. I'm going to take this to Amit Khemka. Amit Khemka, this is the information we're getting right now.
When you say day one,
based on findings of the vigilance inquiry,
2 cops were suspended.
Right. Based on, Amit Khemka, based on findings of the vigilance inquiry, a case under section 354A IPC has been registered against PS Sarojini Nagar on the complaint of the alleged molestation given by the lady journalist pertaining to the incident of crowd dispersal. In the interest of fair and impartial probe, the SHO Delhi Cant has been transferred to district lines. The case has also been transferred to the crime branch for further investigation. This comes from the PRO. Mr. Khemka, same PRO, who said our intention was not to obstruct the media from doing this job. In some confusion, female police personnel mistook the photojournalist for a protester. Mr. Madhur Verma, who has spent his entire weekend justifying the molestation. Mr. Khemka, are you happy with the action that has been taken?
Faye, of course not. But let me take it a little further from taking the cue from Mr. Sharma. You know, he in such an articulate way, he presented the complete situation before you. But what I want to add is that please see the whole sequence of events. There is an officer there is a senior person in the university who is accused of sexual violence, sexual harassment. Now this person is shielded for days together. It requires an agitation. Only when agitation takes place, some action is taken. Then he is suddenly arrested. Within 2 hours, he is produced before a magistrate. No evidence is shared with the magistrate. No remand is asked for. It is kind of a stage managed. He is allowed a bail because the police doesn't oppose it almost. And then when these students come on the streets, they don't want it to be reported. They don't want it to be known to the people. They want to crush the agitation. That is the message which you have to see behind this. And then what they do is that any journalist who dares not to follow that is actually beaten. So a message is being sent that if you are a student, if you want to agitate, we will brand you as Deshdrohis. If you are a journalist and you dare not follow us, if you don't fall in line, then we can go to any extent, and we will use small time constables for that. We will not come in front, and then look at what the spokesperson of the political party is saying. She is saying it was a case of mistaken identity, which even the PRO is not saying. She is saying it. How does she know it that it was a case of mistaken identity? Has she talked to the SHO? Has she talked to the person concerned? Has she talked to the accused?
Please don't lie on the television. I am not saying that the spokesperson
just one
said
minute.
this today.
Just 1 minute, madam.
The spokesperson, we have to rely on the spokesperson of Delhi Police.
Madam, this is your
what is a version?
You want to browbeat everybody. Please don't do that.
No, you
want to browbeat.
No, but I don't understand. Okay, hang on. Okay, let's calm down. Deepika Sharma, Deepika ji, why are you defending a molester? Why are you defending a molester? Whether he is wearing a uniform or not, vardi ke bina bhi, someone who goes around Delhi grabbing breasts, why are you defending him?
Two cops have been suspended.
नहीं, आप डिफेंड क्यों कर रहे हो इस बात को? इस चीज को आप डिफेंड क्यों कर रहे हो?
Program, I said that nobody supports this. Nobody supports this. They need to be given the strictest of punishment.
But they have not been given the strictest of punishment, so you should be upset. You should be agreeing with Mr. Shailesh Gandhi. You are not agreeing. आप defend कर रहे हो, ma'am. आप क्यों defend कर रहे हो इस चीज को?
Where I register my protest is, where I register my protest on your debate is this, that the way Delhi police is being condemned. In complete black. One of the journalists says is comparing the Delhi police to a neighboring state of fake encounters. Then you are bringing 2016 Patiala House case on your show.
Ma'am, are you demanding arrest of these police?
At the end of the day,
are you demanding arrest on TV?
I never said. I was only quoting this. I'm
okay, so Deepika Sharma, will you demand that this SHO be arrested immediately?
Who said on the first day that it was a mistaken identity?
Would you demand that he be arrested immediately?
Well, an FIR has been filed.
Are you demanding an arrest, yes or no, ma'am?
Madam, you should know the procedure of law. You should know the procedure of law first in FIR. Before you arrest somebody,
let me ask Mr. Vikram Singh. Mr. Vikram Singh, please. So, if my understanding of recent history, Mr. Vikram Singh, 1 second, this is the procedure of the law. One second. So, obviously, somebody molests somebody else or sexually harasses somebody else. You file a complaint, nothing happens. You file a complaint, nothing happens. You file a complaint, nothing happens. Then about 20,000 of us have to get onto the street. We have to protest. The police will lathi charge us. Then the police might take action against the first molester. In the meantime, the police have molested 20 other people. This seems to be the rational cycle of things in our country.
Universities are autonomous institutions. Universities
and then the government will defend those police.
Hey, if I may.
No, one second. Deepika Sharma ji, सुन लीजिए. Vikram ji हमें समझाएंगे कि law कैसे काम करते हैं. Vikram Singh, go ahead, please.
दीपिका जी, मेरा विनम्र निवेदन है, जरा एक बार आपका ध्यान चाहूंगा. देखिए, ऐसे अवसर में अवसरवादिता नहीं, ऐसे कठोरता के साथ कार्रवाई होनी चाहिए कि वो एक नजीर बन जाए, एक मिसाल बन जाए. और इस केस में दिल्ली पुलिस की इंटरनल डायनामिक्स, उनकी प्राथमिकताएं, उनकी प्रायोरिटीज बिल्कुल छिन्न भिन्न दिखाई पड़ती हैं. एक बहुत भोला प्रयास उन्होंने किया अपने अधिकारियों और कर्मचारियों को एक गलत कृत्य में, आपराधिक कृत्य में बचाने का कुत्सित प्रयास किया, जो नहीं होना चाहिए था. अंततोगत्वा आपने FIR कर ली. आप किस प्रमाण और साक्ष्य और एविडेंस की प्रतीक्षा कर रही हैं? वीडियो के ऊपर
विक्रम जी, आप एक बहुत सम्मानित
और
हर
चीज बिल्कुल स्पष्ट है.
और जितना मेरे को पता है आपके बारे में, जितना मेरे को पता है विक्रम जी आपके बारे में, जो प्रेजेंट क्रॉप है दिल्ली पुलिस ऑफिसर्स का, वो मोस्ट 90% वो शायद आपके स्टूडेंट्स ही हैं. मैं केवल दिल्ली पुलिस को कोई डिफेंड नहीं कर रहा है. यहाँ पे मैंने प्रोग्राम के शुरू में ही कह दिया था कि जिसने भी अपराध किया है और एक खास तौर पे महिला होने के नाते इन लोगों को कोई भी सपोर्ट नहीं
अगर ये लोग आपके स्टूडेंट्स हैं तो आप क्या एक्शन लेने चाहेंगे अपने स्टूडेंट्स के खिलाफ?
मैं इसीलिए उनका इंस्ट्रक्टर होने के नाते, मैं उनका इंस्ट्रक्टर होने के नाते,
प्रोफेसर ने क्या कहा
मैंने सुना। विनोद शर्मा जी देखिए अपना अभिमत कहने के लिए स्वतंत्र हैं, लेकिन दिल्ली पुलिस और पूरे देश के पुलिस अधिकारियों का इंस्ट्रक्टर होने के नाते मैं समझता हूं कि वर्दी पहनने के बाद उनका कार्य व आचरण एक मिसाल होनी चाहिए। इन्होंने वर्दी को लज्जित किया, शर्मिंदा किया है। कहीं पर भी ये नहीं है। मैं अपने हमेशा पुलिस अधिकारियों मित्रों से कहता हूं, जीरो टच पॉलिसी महिलाओं के साथ होनी चाहिए। और इस केस में जिसने इतनी बड़ा चूक किया है, तो अपराध इट शुड नॉट ओनली बी एग्जेम्पलरी, इट शुड बी इंस्टेंट एंड नॉट एक्सपीडियंट।
Right. Atishi wants to come in with a point. Atishi, go ahead. Atishi,
in such matters. And if you're not cruel to be kind.
Faye, just one question that I would like to raise. Why should action be taken only against the police officer who misbehaved with the journalist? Why is the Delhi police and the Home Ministry not initiating action against all the police officers who behaved brutally, who brutally beat up the protesters who were JNU students? Why just on this case? Is it because media persons have protested? Is it because it's been in the news? Is it okay to brutally repress and beat up students?
में बताएंगे कि जब
okay
चीफ सेक्रेटरी
to do that? Because
दिल्ली
they
के
are
चीफ
only taking
सेक्रेटरी
action
को
against
अपने घर
one
पे आपने
specific
पीटा था।
police officer.
जब दिल्ली के मुख्य सचिव को आपने अपने घर में पीटा था, आपके मुख्यमंत्री ने
आप
पीटा था,
यहाँ पे बताइए कि क्या होम मिनिस्ट्री
stay on topic, ladies, stay on topic, stay on point, please. I don't have time for this.
को रात को 12 बजे अपने घर में पीटती है। कम से कम आप आज moral lecturing तो मत करिए टेलीविजन
So, but you know, this is important, and let me take this question to Neerja Chaudhary here. एक minute, ladies, one second. I have a question for Neerja Chaudhary. Ms. Chaudhary, the manner in which the
पुलिस से सिक्योरिटी लेते हैं,
I don't think Ms. Chaudhary can hear me.
पुलिस आपके नेताओं को सिक्योरिटी देती है।
मुझे बात नहीं करनी है आपकी पॉलिटिक्स के बारे में।
पुलिस को गालियां देते रहते हैं, ठुल्ला बोलते हैं आप।
पॉलिटिक्स के बारे में बात नहीं करनी है, हम पॉलिटिक्स के बारे में बात नहीं करते। नीरजा चौधरी जी, the manner in which the Delhi police PRO, who is in official position, turned around and said that this happened because it was a case of mistaken identity, almost seems like the Delhi police thinks it is business as usual. If someone comes to protest, you can beat them. We've seen reports of, girls being lathi charged who have put up pictures of the scars or the wounds or the bruises on Facebook. There's testimony, Neerja ji, on Facebook of girls who said that their blouses were torn by the police, who then took them to the police station, gave them something else to wear like it was normal. This is normal behavior. Now, it brings to question the entire behavior of the Delhi police, the manner in which they consider crowd dispersal of a combination of beating, water cannons and molestation. This is not okay.
I absolutely agree with you. If you look at the, what has come now on the social media and the posts of eyewitnesses, which I've read, and you wonder, is this our police force of a democratic country? You're absolutely right. The way these young girls were terrorized, there's no other word to describe them. The way their clothes were torn, and the mother is there, one of the mothers was there watching it all, and they were so helpless, they didn't know what to do. And I keep saying this is happening in the country's capital, Delhi, and it's happening by our police force, which is supposed to be controlling riots and disturbances. They're professional people. If I am in trouble, I'll go to the police. Where else will I go? And that policeman is the one who does this to me. It is a very painful thing what has happened this time. It's not only about journalists. I absolutely agree with you. Young students have a right to protest if they think something is wrong. They were protesting peacefully. And for that, the police to act like that, whatever you may feel about JNU, whatever you may feel about Delhi University, Hyderabad University, ideology has its own place, political differences have their own place. But no society where women are treated like that has a future.
Yes. And, you know, I want to ask Mr. Vinod Sharma this question. The last time we saw something like this, Mr. Sharma, was in Banaras Hindu University, BHU. There were girls who were sitting on the street demanding justice for a very similar problem. They had complained about a molestation, they didn't get justice. The police unreasonably, without justification, lathi charged these girls on camera. It was absolutely horrific. This cannot be our country. And I want to remind all of our viewers, independence was won in this country because people of this age in colleges went out onto the street and stood with Mahatma Gandhi, and they fought that non-violence movement and they won our independence. It is always people from colleges who protest everything.
Yes,
these are the ones who have the time and the energy to actually stand for human rights. Vinod Sharma, please go ahead.
Yes, and that movement was led basically by lawyers, and they didn't beat up the journalists, the students who were, or the young people who were part of the freedom struggle. The BJP spokesperson is good at self-righteous indignation and is mighty unhappy with my broad spectrum analysis of the situation. I am worried, madam. I have been a crime reporter in this city, and I have, as a young reporter, covered.
Sir,
please listen to me carefully now. Please don't interrupt. There has to be some decency of debate.
More self-righteous.
There has to be decency of debate, man.
I'm sorry to say.
With respect.
You are Congress spokesperson sitting on the channel. Your track record has been like that. After Praful Ketkar, you are holding the flag for Congress, and don't fool anybody. Don't fool anybody. The debates.
No, hang on. Let him finish speaking, and then you can rebut. All right, Deepika Sharma, उनको बोलने दीजिए. Deepika जी, उनको बोलने दीजिए. फिर आप rebuttal कर दीजिए. एक minute. One at a time, please. One at a time.
Where the law and order problem is being tackled.
One second. Okay, see. Let me just put this. 1 second, Deepika Sharma, if you can hear me. Nobody's political convictions on this panel mean anything, because molestation is molestation, police officer is police officer, college student is college student, irrespective of which side any of us are on.
Oh, yes, we were talking.
So if there is a journalist who was molested and that police officer is still walking around, I want to know why. Now, Mr. Vinod Sharma's political convictions have absolutely no bearing on this conversation whatsoever. Vinod Sharma, go ahead. Vinod Sharma, I apologize. Go ahead.
No, would you just ask her to permit me time and ask her to be a little better behaved, you know. She's a lady, I have to respect her.
No, she will give you time to speak. Please go ahead.
Where ladies have to be respected, women have to be respected, regardless of who, whether one is in uniform or whether one is a supporter of an ideology or whether one is a journalist. Now, please listen to me, the BJP spokesperson, that I have, as a young crime reporter, police reporter in this city, covered an agitation in which Kiran Bedi, your hero, raised a baton against a protester who was trying to burn the Indian Constitution. I have seen that levels and that quality of policing, and that is why I am upset. How can, you see, as a journalist, I think it's a hazard of my profession if I get mistaken as a protester. It is condemnable what has happened to that photojournalist. But I cannot see this kind of treatment and brutality and crass use of police force and lathi charge against students protesting, exercising the right to dissent from a university which threatens you, I don't know why, intellectually so much, your party and you have no merit to measure up to them except use the lathi. I am going to repeat this at any forum because I feel that a great institution of higher learning in this country, which is forever recognized by the world, is being put to seed. It is being put to death. That is the irony of this country. And you think you are doing great service to education. You are doing great service to the young people of this country. I don't know, why are we sitting here and weeping over a journalist who got molested? It is sad, it is condemnable, but I have photographs in my cell phone of women students, girl students of JNU facing worse. Nirja just now said she has detailed account of what happened to them. I have it. I have it from professors of that institution and from the mother of a person who suffered. I have it in the cell phone. But that cries will not reach you. And even if those cries reach you, you won't shed a tear. Your heart will not move. You know why? Because you are fighting for the mind of India, and JNU is one institution which won't let you happen that.
Right. I also want to point out to our viewers that just today, three journalists have died in this country. Just today, in Madhya Pradesh. One second. I have to give my viewers the news.
No, I do not want to be taught by this lady. You know, dear lady, I cannot misbehave with you. I'm sorry, but you are consistently misbehaving on this panel. You are not following the basic rules and principles of a debate in a democracy.
Who can teach you?
You want to stifle everybody. You want to brand anybody. Yes, okay, for instance, you can take me as a supporter of the Congress. It is an act, anti-national act. What are you talking about?
All right. You know what? You're offending. At this point, the quality of the argument is offending my panel. You're offending my audience, and quite frankly, you're also offending me. Deepika Sharma, we are talking about the fact that the Delhi police went out and molested young women on the road. On the road, whether they were journalists or they were students. It does not matter which party you are from. It does not matter what Mr. Vinod Sharma believes. It doesn't matter who Vikram Singh trained. It doesn't matter where Shailesh Gandhi had his breakfast this morning. Molestation is molestation. No, you have not. You have spent the last 1 hour defending the Delhi police.
I have already condemned it.
You have spent the last hour berating every member of this panel.
She has been denigrating all of us. No, she's insulting everybody on the panel.
Now you tell me this. Okay, fine. All right, since you like changing the subject, Deepika Sharma, three journalists have died today. One in Madhya Pradesh, two in Bihar. All three deaths were suspicious. And I'll run footage on the screen, Mr. Gandhi, of the journalist in Madhya Pradesh who was reporting the sand mafia, was run over by a truck. Please calm down, calm down. All right, I'm going to close the show here. Unfortunately, I can't. I think this is yes. There's a visual on your screen right now. Mr. Gandhi, you can see it on the big screen. There's a truck. There was a journalist on a two-wheeler. That truck makes a suspicious left turn and mows down that journalist. He died. He was reporting on the sand mafia in Madhya Pradesh. Two similar incidents took place in Bihar today where two journalists died. A total of 3 deaths in one day. In a country where cameras are being snatched from journalists, where pens are being snatched from journalists, where women journalists are being molested and beaten on the street, to keep them from doing their jobs?
I think the government must come in and assure people that it is not attacking their freedom of speech and expression.
It's very serious, viewers, and I'm going to thank my panel here because I have to wrap up this discussion. While it is an extremely serious thing that the Delhi police believes it can behave in this manner, and all of them together, so did they receive instructions? Did they all suddenly think it was okay to beat up the kids on the street? Did they think it was okay to molest the girls, to tear their clothes, to lathi charge them, to snatch cameras away from journalists? What were they doing? Had the police turned into a mob, or did they receive instructions? And after the several complaints that have come out, no arrests mean a repeat of the first thing that these people were protesting to begin with, that in this country we will complain about molestation and sexual harassment and nobody does anything about it, including the police of this case. Let me remind you, viewers, that nobody has the right to touch a woman in this country, especially the police. That's what female constables are for. That rule broken obviously on camera here. Delhi police being brazen and then spending the weekend justifying that molestation makes us all very concerned. But the thing that we should be most worried about is that journalists are not being allowed to do their job. It means that you are being kept from the truth. That as a citizen, somebody is working very hard to make sure that you do not find out the truth, and that is what it means when journalists are dying. Remember Gauri Lankesh. Remember the fact that 3 journalists died in our country today from suspicious circumstances, and that in our national capital of our country, journalists are getting beaten up, and their cameras are being snatched away from them. This is a reason of grave, grave concern. You will not find it on the prime time of other channels, and that is something you should also be worried about. When the entire fraternity comes out into the street, places their cameras on the road and say this is a problem, if members of the fraternity do not carry it at 9 p.m. at night, you should be even more worried than you were 2 minutes ago. Our democracy is under threat. There is no doubt about it. And you need to be fully aware of who and why this brainwashing is being done. Thanks for watching.